looks as though Tariq Nasheed is sort of validating everything that I've said earlier. If you check the timestamps on the video you're about to see, you'll realize that this was created earlier. But it's extremely important to check yourself to make sure that your thoughts aren't post-dictive, that they are predictive, right? That your insights are not necessarily copying somebody else's insights, that they're novel. And the only way to do that in certain cases is to withhold your opinion being shared with other people or to the world, and see whether or not it gets reflected in the world without you having to say anything. Because I'm not some sort of savant. I'm just applying common sense into this situation. So it's very interesting that he's basically stating every single thing that I'm stating in this video that you're about to see. It's very interesting. But I'm gonna go ahead and stop right now and start that other video.
A lot of you niggas run around here talking about, yeah, you ain't my real daddy, you ain't my real daddy. Well, look here, I'm fucking your mama for real. Now that's real.
I think I can do this too. You know. But no, let's get into some real shit. Get into some real shit. So last night, Black Authority had a very, very long broadcast. And he was talking about many things. He was talking about Roland Martin. He was talking about, and took some callers as well. Very disrespectful to some of the callers, two of which very interesting. The topics that they were bringing up and how he was responding. And then he ended with sort of his perspective, right? And again, it's more of the pimp talk, but I'll get into that. But the basic thing that you have to always remember is this. We have to remember whether or not you're dealing with a pimp, whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist, whether or not you're dealing with somebody who is just trying to get something out of you. You have to remember all those things. And in this particular incident, I have to remember that once a person shows you who they are, you have to remember that that's exactly who they are. So let me back up and then we can go forward. Everybody seems to be talking about Roland Martin. I don't know why everybody's talking about Roland Martin. Roland Martin is not important to me in any way, shape, fashion, or form. I've classified him as a fat, snack-eating boule nigga who basically borrows narratives from the grassroots in order to gain legitimacy so he can parlay that into some sort of notoriety for himself. Right? His narrative is pretty easy for anybody to decipher, that he's just simply trying to get on with another network and trying to ideally partner his network with another network, or in this case now, seek direct funding. I mean, honestly, considering what his program did, I mean, it's actually quite understandable, right? He sold out his own community to push a racist white guy by the name of Biden, and to push a racist AG by the name of Kamala Harris. So, I mean, he should get paid for that, honestly. I mean, because if he doesn't get paid for that, then what did he do it for, right? That's my question. What did he do it for? So bringing him up is not necessarily something that's very important to me or to anybody else, but Jason was bringing that up almost as if he was kind of jealous of the money that was being asked for. It was almost like a comparative thing where it was like, well, he doesn't know about these states and I know about those states because I've been actually traveled there. I know what's going on in these states and blah, 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 blah. It was almost like he was trying to audition himself for those roles and for that job, right? Which was very, very odd. Very, very odd. But so was the situation. Then he took callers, and there were two callers in particular. One where it was actually three. I think it was one where one was the guy, the white guy, clearly, but he was asking a very interesting question. He was asking whether or not we needed to have incremental change and whether or not the laws should be incremental. Obviously, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with incremental change in this shape, fashion, or form, because incremental change can be turned into minuscule change pretty easily. Or, hey, we gave you a treat. Now wait outside for 3 days before we give you another type thing. But what the problem was, I think what was revealed in that particular exchange is that I think the caller was saying something to the effect of, hey, you said that you wanted tangibles, and tangibles should be, and you've identified tangibles as reparations, and you've said that that's your major priority. And then he responded with, no, that's not my major priority. And very disrespectfully as well. He never said his priorities, but he said that wasn't his priorities. Okay, well then I have a problem with you, clearly. But you've been talking all this shit this whole entire time, but reparations isn't the main thing that you're pushing for when you say tangibles. So again, we don't know your name. We don't know your background, right? See, knowing your name and knowing your background was pretty important when I have to evaluate Antonio Moore, right? I don't trust that fat slobbermouth prosecutor either. But I don't trust him because I know his name. I therefore know his background as a prosecutor, and it's been exposed because he has a name and a face. It's been exposed the sort of subtle things that he's done in the background. I don't know this dude. This dude right here is not Jason Black. This is what's his name? Oh Lord Jesus, what is his name? Let me back up. Eldridge Cleaver. Before I actually... Okay. This is actually Eldridge Cleaver. There we go. Okay. Whew. Almost told on myself there a little bit. That's not Jason Black. That's Eldridge Cleaver. Cleaver, correct? Cleaver. Let me make sure I'm correct. Eldridge Cleaver. Yes. It's not Jason Black. Right? That's who that is. So, we don't know anything about you. We don't know your background. We don't know what's going on with you. We don't know who you are. There's a weird show a couple of days ago where some white lady called in and was talking about, was calling you a white guy. You just giggled it off. You didn't even correct her. Alright? But you said that reparations wasn't the main thing that you were talking about when you said tangibles. Yeah. Reparations is number one. I'm sorry I gotta correct you, but you said it wasn't. But then you didn't give your priority list. And all you did with that individual was basically go back and forth and be very, very belligerent with the guy. But at the end of the day, I don't really care about the guy. I really don't care about the guy. But at the end of the day, when you're challenged, it seems as though this individual always decides that he wants to basically shout over the person and then terminate the call. It's so funny how with black people, he just quick to just shut him up and terminate the call. But with the white guy, he wanted him to end the call himself. And then finally he had to end the call. Very interesting there. Then there was another person who called in and he tried to correct her. Or I think it was a her. And no. He actually stated himself that he voted in this election. I mean, I thought the mantra was no tangibles, no vote, right? That he was pushing and everybody else was pushing. Yet he voted. Now, I can decipher. I mean, I have a brain of who he voted for or whatever. But it's interesting that everybody else was saying no tangibles, no vote, and he wasn't correcting anybody to say, no, you guys should vote. Right? Because that sounds very, very voter suppression-y to me. Honestly, if they want to label this Black reparations movement as a covert conservative effort to suppress the black vote, Jason Black is the very good poster child, best poster child for that. He's an unknown figure. We don't know anything about this individual other than what he himself claims about himself. We don't know where he's from. We don't know his background. We don't know anything about him. Yet he's out here allowing a no tangibles, no vote slogan to be disseminated without him necessarily quote-unquote co-signing to it, while he himself participated in voting. While he was talking shit about a down ballot policy from ADOS, from Tone and Yvette, he himself either practiced a full ballot a vote in which he voted for president, either Biden or Trump, or he himself participated in a down ballot strategy. Meaning, why did you get into a back and forth with Tone and Yvette over the same issue? Then when another woman called in, and you could tell she was a sweet individual, she said that, hey, I have another question, but I'm going to get to this. You said earlier that you did actually vote, blah, blah, blah. I thought you said that it was no tangibles, no vote. Could you explain that? He caught an attitude, talking all up underneath the woman's dress and every fucking thing. Disrespected her entirely. Right? Entirely. And then hung up the phone. But y'all want to listen to this individual. Okay. Then he goes on to, in my opinion, the worst part of the interview, or the show, the entertainment show. Trying to correct somebody saying it's a program. It's a show. The worst part of the show is that he tries to pimp talk his way into saying how Biden and Harris winning is a good thing. Right? And that's the last section. Let me handle that in two parts. Number one, it's interesting that he waited until Saturday to even have this program. It was obvious that he was waiting for the white media that he talks about so badly and so poorly. He was waiting for them to tell him who the president is of the United States, or the president-elect is. There is no president-elect right now. Votes are currently being counted. We can go down that road. All right, let's start in Arizona. Biden's lead in Arizona continues to drop as he's projected to win presidency, which is a sort of a dual, 108,000 ballots left in Arizona. All right. After 4 days since election day, the Grand Canyon State will have about 108,000 ballots to be counted. Right? So they're still counting ballots right now. Right now in Arizona. Still counting ballots in Pennsylvania. Still counting ballots in Georgia. This is yesterday at 7:30. Almost 8 o'clock. North Carolina is still counting ballots. I don't want to accept their, but you could read that. North Carolina 2020 election results. Has it become an important swing state this election? Leads by 70,000 vote margin, stronghold, but mail-in ballots could still turn the tide. This was today, or this morning. So they're still counting ballots in North Carolina. I don't know what Jason Black is talking about, right? Because he started off his program sort of kissing quote-unquote white media's ass. He says, oh yeah, it looks like the Democrats stuffed the ballot, but it looks like Biden won. It looks like some cheating happened, but it looked like Biden won, or at least that's what they say. Okay. There's a problem with that. First of all, you're taking your lead from quote-unquote white media. Second of all, the narrative that's in the background of voter or of election fraud is relevant. It is extremely relevant, right? The reason why it's relevant is this, right? So you see this, all right? You see this, you see this, you see this, right? And all of these tweets, if you look at them, probably have to do with a claim of election fraud. Right? People are screaming, stop the count, and we demand transparency. As legal observers, we are we are as legal observers were refused admittance to count rooms. How is that being blocked by Twitter? How is that being blocked by Twitter? There's nothing wrong with that. So what's going to happen is another narrative. I want to show you this for the people who don't really go on his thing that often. As of today, he has 88.9 million followers. 88.9 million followers. Might as well compare. Probably more. Let's see. 127 million. 88.9 million followers on Twitter, right? It is all but a guarantee that after he is no longer president, he is going to lose his Twitter account. Why is that important? I'll get to it. As Jason Black was talking last Saturday, those Hawkeye observers would have noticed that YouTube put a nice little reference similar to that on Jason Black's video as he was doing a live stream, directing people to the fact that the claim that the election is done and Biden is the new president-elect. This form of censorship by YouTube and other tech giants, big tech companies, if combined with major media coverage, which even Jason Black is now subject to, he has now made himself subject to, if the media says it's so, well, Jason Black is going to go ahead and go along with it. Right? It means that the landscape that he was fighting, or the terrain that he was fighting before, is not going to be the terrain he's fighting in the future. Right? In the future, Jason Black, he's talking all this shit about, oh, well, we defeated Kamala Harris, and we did this against Kamala Harris, and we did that against Kamala Harris. Right? Do you not think Kamala Harris hasn't seen Jason Black's videos? Do you not think that one of the petty things that she's probably going to do in the background is try to go ahead and make sure that Mr. Jason Black is deplatformed very quickly from both YouTube and Twitter? I mean, for the long-term listeners, we already know about that one video that was cut off mid-sentence. They're watching. So he feels as though he's going to be able to wage this sort of guerrilla information warfare in the same terrain as he's currently dealing with it now. Under an administration who net approves of his attack of Democrats, of largely Democratic candidates, right? It's a different story when you're attacking those Democrats and they're actually in power. So I could see that Jason Black is going to be deplatformed. That's number one. He's going to be deplatformed from YouTube. He's going to be deplatformed from Twitter. And thanks to the fact that Google is going to be the one ranking his website, if he wants to try to fall back to a website, that website is going to be delisted or deprioritized via what is it? SAO? SOI? SAO? SAO. I forgot. Site optimization? Something. He's going to be basically deprioritized on the search algorithm. So even when somebody's looking for his website, it may not even show up when somebody's looking for it on Google. Right? But he's thinking that he's going to be able to wage this sort of asymmetrical warfare, this asymmetrical information warfare against the Democratic Party while they're in office. And more importantly, when they obtain their current office through fraud, right? Let's say the election fraud aspects are correct, right? Because they don't, this whole situation doesn't pass the smell test in any way, shape, fashion, or form. It clearly does not pass the smell test. So common sense tells you that something is wrong. Let's say that is true. That the Democrats decided to say, fuck trying to deal with these immigrants. Fuck trying to get these black people on board. We just stole this shit. And if we get into office having stolen this shit, we're going to take 4 years to push through what the fuck we want to push through, which will make them more corporatist, by the way, mind you. And that's a nice little signal as to whether, not necessarily racist. It will make them more corporatist, right? And then they decide to say, hey, in 4 years, we're not going to worry about the black vote. We're not going to worry about this vote or that vote. We'll fund some controlled opposition, I guess, i.e. Jason Black. We'll get back to that with his, I actually voted bullshit. But they could just take 4 years and perfect their vote scamming, right? And do it like that. And decide to say, hey, we're just going to perfect this. We ain't going to worry about it. We'll get back in office. Or even better yet, we'll have an agreement with the Republicans now that the establishment Republicans are back in office to say, hey, we're now back to our old agreement of, hey, y'all get 8 years and we get 8 years. Y'all get 8 years and we get 8 years. Right? And therefore, what you're hoping for is like, oh, Lord Jesus, I can't believe he even said that. He said something to the effect of, well, what happens if Biden and Harris have to go up against a Republican version of Bill Clinton, right? Lord Jesus Christ. The rapist Bill Clinton. The quote-unquote first black president who also signed off on that 1994 crime bill. That's the example that Jason Black used last night. See, you got to pay attention. That last part got most people roo-rah upset. Oh, like, oh, I didn't even know. He's so intellectual. Actually, yeah. These maggots eating at my flesh is actually a good thing. No, nigga. No, it's not. It's really not. But you see they're eating the necrotic flesh, and that's no. You need to go to the hospital. That's an open fucking wound with fucking maggots in it. Let's just not say that the maggots are helping you right now. Let's just take your ass to the hospital. But see, Jason Black told me. Exactly. That gets you into that. It gets you into that. But no, it's not a good thing. If the media, which is proof positive by the fact that Jason Black, vote counting being finished, pre the electoral college even sitting, pre the lawsuits with Donald Trump even going through, right, and being either good or bad, right, pre all of that, on the strength of quote unquote white media, he has decided to side with the consensus that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the next president and vice president elect, respectively. So what happens when that same media invalidates his message of reparations? Ooh. Or the message of reparations. What happens when the media collectively, because Fox News is a part of this, right? Which is quite interesting for those MAGA people who gave Fox all of those ratings. They gave them all of those ratings for 4 years. For 4 years. And only for Fox to be the first one to call Arizona, even though the votes right now, as we speak, are being counted. Fox was one of the first news organizations, quote unquote news, organizations to call it. But Jason Black is all down for all of that. Because he believes in some sort of stupid, kamikaze, reverse psychology, pimp talk, anti-intellectual logic of, yeah, see, when they're in there, they got to do this and they got to do that and they got to show us whether or not they truly the same type of people. They either got to show us that they're the same people or they got to show us that they ain't got to show us shit. Us? They ain't got to show us shit. They could have a horrible relationship with African Americans and bribe Latinos. They could have a horrible relationship with African Americans and bribe LGBTQ members. They can have a horrible relationship with African Americans and practice class politics a la Bernie Sanders and do some populist bullshit and have the white population like them. Like, I don't know, college debt forgiveness. They can have a horrible relationship with us and spend $300 million on the police and have the police unions behind them next cycle. Multiple members of us can be killed. And they could do demographic or case studies, nice little study groups, or what is it? Core groups? Got the name of it. All right? They can take a small sampling of the protesters and try to figure out, like, hey, what do you need in your life, Mr. White Liberal, in order for you not to protest? Because our main objective is, if those blacks are in the streets, that's fine. They could be in the streets. But what do you need in order for you not to go into the streets with them? Do you feel as though they haven't had those types of focus groups? Do you think that they haven't had those types of focus groups as of this point? I'm talking about the Democratic Party. And therefore, think of themselves, hey, if we have more police shootings, at least it'll just be black people out there. It won't be white people, helping them out and destroying shit with them. We'll focus on their issues just so they don't go out there with them. They can ignore us entirely. They could prove to us, yeah, they are exactly who we. And then what? If they stole the election, if they stole the election this time and they do it again, then what? Who cares? Jason Black, you're 100% right. Oh my God, you're following on YouTube, if it's still around, that you're bragging about, right? Your following on YouTube is now 200,000 subscribers. Oh, good for you, good for you, good for you. Because you were right. And guess what? They don't fucking need us anymore. They don't fucking need us anymore. You're trying to pimp talk it because you win out of the situation. You see yourself as a Rush Limbaugh of the black experience, and you're hoping to one day cash in on that position. In my opinion, you're hoping to be the one and true only Pied Piper of black people. And that's the problem with this type of logic, the real problem. You know those types of people who you talk to, and they are just fucking liars. They could talk you out your goddamn drawers, and by the time you walking home butt naked, you thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I ain't have to give him my goddamn underwear. You know those types of people? You know those types of people who you know damn well they're lying to you to your motherfucking face, but you thinking to yourself, man, but that's a good alibi. That's a good fucking alibi. God damn it. You know those types of people? Those two-faced ass motherfuckers who can just say all sorts of bullshit and it takes you a while before you get it. This motherfucker's a liar. That's Jason Black. All roads lead to him, right? No tangibles, no vote. What? You niggas didn't vote? I voted. Wait. What I said was vote black empowerment. Now, under the pretext of no tangibles, no vote, a large amount of people interpreted that as I ain't gonna vote. But I didn't necessarily say that. That type of nigga. That type of nigga. Let me tell you this. Here's the deal. What he's talking about is bullshit. The Democratic Party does not have to do a goddamn thing for us. You know what they have to do? They have to figure out the correct percentage of black people who are going to be pissed off if they do nothing next cycle. And they have to make sure that they make allowances for those people only. That they, not allowances as in they give them something, but that they replace that vote, that percentage vote, with somebody else. So if they say, well, okay, we had 18% of black males going to Trump last cycle. We're not going to do shit for black males. But what we are going to do is try to figure out how many, as we go along with our presidency, we're going to try to figure out how many black males are going to be pissed off at us next cycle and may go over to the Republican Party, and let's just make sure that we have those people in the bag, that we have those individuals, you know what I'm saying, lined up to replace them when it comes time to do an election. That's all they have to worry about. But Jason is trying to make it seem like, oh, well, this is a good thing because now they get to show us who they are. Nigga, Joe Biden is who he is. He's going to be who he is. He got elected being who he was. He didn't have to do a goddamn thing or bend any fucking knee to the black community. He got on Charlemagne the God's, the Breakfast Club's platform and said directly to the fucking camera, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And he is now, according to white media, the president-elect. Having said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, he shouldn't have gotten one single vote from the black community. But he did. What mandate does he have to be anything different? Just because you... I've been a racist piece of shit for 40 some odd years. Now I'm the president, finally. I can do all those policies I've always wanted to do when I was a racist senator from Delaware. But you know what? After 4 going on 5 decades of being a racist piece of shit, now I finally get it. I gotta make sure I don't piss off black men. Even though I've made an entire career on literally locking up and killing through the death penalty black men. Well, now I over these 4 years, I gotta make sure I don't prove them right, because Jason Black on his YouTube channel may get an extra 50,000 followers to see if I do that. They don't give a flying fuck about that. Like I said from the previous interview, that little back and forth Pepsi versus Coke bullshit that y'all had between Yvette and Tone and Tariq and y'all, all that shit is what bombed this fucking election. Y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all don't want to take responsibility for the shit. Y'all don't want to take responsibility. Now you just want to pimp talk your way into, see, it was a victory all along. Was it your goal? Was it your goal? Was it your stated goal for Biden and Harris to be elected? I know for a fact it wasn't. I don't give a damn about a scenario that's going to help you get more followers. I give a damn about a scenario that's going to help us get reparations. And right now, the path I see is if Trump is successful with a lawsuit, oh shit, a large amount of people go down. These little social media companies, they lose their Section 230 rights. That's a good thing for me. That's a good thing for black people. That's a good thing for you as a quote-unquote member of black media. I would hope that he would handle H-1B visas, since that is a very real staffing workforce for a large amount of these tech giants. I would hope that he would become even more deadly serious about antitrust legislation. That's good for everybody. That's good for you and media. That's good for everybody. But more importantly, in a situation where he is able to somehow, some way, knife out a victory here, you can actually go to the Trump administration and say, hey, you want to get rid of the Democrats? Hey, we're going to ask them for a heck of a lot more than what we're going to ask you. All right? We're going to ask them for protected class policies. We're going to be a protected class in this country. Nobody's going to be able to touch us. We're going to be like almost legally immune to any sort of criticism. We're going to be the elite. We're going to be the white people of this country after we're all said and done legally. We're going to have so many legal protections on our backs, on our belts, that, hey, nobody's going to be able to touch us. We're going to ask for all that. We're going to keep that protected class status. Or, here's what you could do. Republicans, Donald Trump, we could get rid of all the things, all the copycat organizations that want to copy off of black people. All of the other organizations that sort of copy our blueprint to try to claim any sort of minority or protected status. We can end all that by you giving us reparations. We won't ask for protected class status. We know that's against you. But then that means you can end affirmative action entirely. That means any organization making similar arguments as us, you can actually say, no, we're not doing that anymore. And we will, most black people, which is what Jason Black won't necessarily say as a an, 'cause, 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 ' This is what Jason Black won't necessarily say as a feature of the black community, but most black people are conservative, socially conservative. The only thing that makes us Democrat is the fact that they possibly promise us scraps, and we need those scraps, so we beg at their table. But if you actually give black people money, a large amount of the value system that we have would align with the Republican Party. So not only that, but you could say, hey, you could be the president who gave black people reparations and completely destroyed the Democratic Party because they no longer had black people to depend on. You could push that narrative right now. You'll see the results in 2 years when it's time for us to re-elect the Senate and the Congress, and we'll put you ahead. And we expect that to be pushed through. We can have a narrative. This election is not over. I don't know why Jason Black is making those statements to you. It's not over. When it's over, okay, it's over. But if it's over and Biden and Harris are president and vice president, there is no scenario whatsoever, no reverse psychology bullshit that he's saying on his program that makes that a good thing for black people. It's a good thing for him and his little media endeavor on YouTube, if he doesn't get blacklisted or deplatformed, which he will be. If he doesn't get deplatformed on Twitter, which he will be. But it's a good thing for him, but it's not a good thing for us. It's not a good thing for us. And don't let a pimp talk you into being a hoe.